This is Talking Business. I'm joined now by Steve Norman, who's the CEO of his own business called Growth Acumen. G'day, Steve.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
Very well. Now, your website says that you're all about B2B, that's business-to-business sales.
Correct.
And your website says the B2B sales profession, as we knew it, is under threat. And you actually say 57% of the buyer journey is now travelling digitally, and 2/3 of salespeople are missing quota. Well, that's not good. Please explain.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the B2B sales profession is under enormous pressure. And over the last decade or so, the pendulum of power has switched much more towards the buyer and away from the seller. And something I talk about is that buyers...
Why is that?
Yeah, well, buyers have gotten much better at buying faster than sellers are getting better at selling. And with so much information available online, buyers have taken full advantage of that. And they don't really need salespeople for product information or for service information or for information about the company. So sellers that want to survive and thrive really need to adapt to this very different situation.
Right. And so what do you do for them? You're teaching them how to catch up. What do you teach them?
Yeah, well, something I've observed in the last few years is that the sales function has been pretty neglected or overlooked by CEOs, by founders, by even sales leaders themselves. And a lot of them are still operating the same way they did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and still following those same sales practices. And it's pretty clear old sales practices just have a much more diminished return. So, I've spent I've had a long senior sales and general management career in a lot of the tech companies across Asia and so forth. But the last 2 years, I've really dedicated myself to understanding what's really working today in the B2B sales profession. And, I'm working with these companies to help them implement world-class sales practices. Okay, so go in. What's your current state?
So tell us.
Yeah.
Tell us what does work these days. I'm just assuming there's somebody listening who's a poor, under the thumb, under the hammer B2B salesperson. What should they do that they're not currently doing?
Well, there's a couple of big themes. Okay, so there's a lot of commoditization has happened to our products, and customers are just bombarded with so much information from so many sellers, and all of the solutions and products sort of look the same. So how do we stand out? And something we definitely shouldn't be doing is engaging with customers and talking about our products, talking about our company, talking about ourselves. We need to turn around and be talking about customers' pain points, customers' problems, and bringing value and insight to customers. So we need to be somewhat expert in our field, in our vertical market or with the segment that we're in, and bring some of that value to customers. So bring them things they haven't even thought about themselves and bring value in that way. That's a start. And the other thing is, traditionally a lot of salespeople have just relied on having great relationships or great relationship skills. That's not enough anymore. So again, instead of being relationship focused, relationships good. We need to have decent professional relationships, but it needs to be based on value. We need to be bringing value to customers.
You've published a book called Futureproof Sales Strategy, which says on the cover that it's got 7 steps to rise above the chaos, transform your team and take charge of your career. So give us a bit of a preview, Steve. What are the 7 steps?
Yeah, it's a guide for sales and business leaders who want to take the sales function forward. And in most organisations that I've observed, there's a lot of opportunity to take that sales function forward into the 21st century. So the first 10 or 15% of the book outlines the challenges facing the industry, but the bulk of the book are these 7 steps that you can take to take your organisation forward. So you could take the whole thing and transform your whole operation if you want. There's enough information in there to do that. Or you can choose 1 or 2 of the steps in some priority area. So just quickly, first is getting the right structure in place. So our sales structure should reflect our business goals. So we need to get that in place. Second is managing our talent much better. So I've got some guidelines for hiring and retaining talent, much better than using traditional methods. And then we get into there's 3 steps that go very deep into the sales process. So the first one is on a red-hot lead generation capability, or a very modern way of prospecting and getting new customers. The second of those sales process steps is developing a really strong, what we call middle of funnel capability. So deal management, how we engage with big customers, how we build business cases with them, how we conduct meaningful and value-based negotiations. And then the third part is the customer success part. And this is really overlooked in a lot of companies, where if we are managing customers very effectively once they've bought from us, and we're making sure that they're achieving their ROI goals on the investment they've made with us, they're going to become advocates and they're going to become a referral engine for our business. So we should be looking to get growth from taking care of our existing customers. That should be a big growth engine rather than just cold calling or cold prospecting activity. And then I've got a couple of steps, one on stakeholder management, and the last but not least is change management for sales leaders. Because as you implement these 7 steps, you're going to get resistance. The initiatives are going to fail unless we really prepare the ground very carefully, align our stakeholders, have senior management involved at the right points in that process, and make sure those changes stick. So it's a really like an end-to-end guidebook.
So you're really talking about the balance of power, aren't you, between salespeople and the buyers in companies, and that the balance of power has shifted towards the buyers because of the resources that are available to the buyers now. They're all pretty well armed with knowledge, but that's kind of permanent. That's not going to change, is it?
No, I think that's something that's just going to increase, and so we need to be retooling our sales teams and our salespeople for that situation. So we're not going to be adding value just with product knowledge. We need to be coming with business value, more insight. We need to be recognizing they're engaging with us later. They're giving us less time than they gave before. So when we get time with the buyer, we really need to maximize that time and make an impression. Because buyers are meeting with lots of sellers, and it becomes this sea of sameness. How do we stand out? And we need to be talking to buyers about things that affect them, their company, their career, their function, and that's something that will stick. So we need to gear our whole organisations towards that.
Do you think that salespeople need to be retrained?
In most cases, yes. Like something I commonly see is maybe there's that top 10 or 20% of salespeople that are still doing well, and they do this stuff instinctively or they've learnt it themselves. And then you've got your bottom performers that maybe can't ever get up to the level we want. But that big group of 60, 70, 80% in the middle, they really need some guidance, training. The company needs to have some sort of structure to help that middle group reskill and adapt to this situation.
So how are you going? Are you presumably selling your programs, educational programs, and I think you do sales system audits and so on. Are you finding that companies are switching on to this and buying your services?
More and more people are realising they've got to make a change, whether it's a founder or a CEO or the sales leader or a country manager of a tech company here. So, and especially since the book's come out, there's been a lot of attention and noise around this topic. So, I've got a lot of projects on the go, and having a lot of great conversations with sales leaders who want to adapt, who want to learn. And sales leaders are really busy. They're under huge pressure, and they probably haven't had a lot of time to think about a lot of this. And there's a lot of noise and a lot of information out there, a lot of bad information. So I'm pretty fresh from being a sales leader myself, and I understand, I can empathize with them, and I think what I've put together distills a lot of the massive information out there and is quite useful for them.